So you've been going to Cup races, Jeff, for 30 years, driver, now broadcaster. I mean, the experience of being at a street race for the first time ever in your life as a member of the NASCAR industry. I mean, I know there's a lot of trepidation heading into this race. I think, aside from the weather problems Saturday, Sunday, it's too bad the concerts, 3 of those concerts got canceled, but you can't control the weather. I think aside from what NASCAR couldn't control, everything else felt pretty much like a home run. What was it like from your perspective watching this race happen, which it felt like hell freezing over, I think, for many people in some ways?
I was really nervous about it. The whole process, I was concerned about it. And we went a month ago or so and went to Chicago with all the traffic on the racetrack. There were roads, but we were able to get on those roads and see what it was that was going to happen. And after seeing it, I'm like, this is going to work. Like, this can work, right? Like, it's wider than I thought it was going to be in most areas. There were some areas that were really narrow. But I don't know. I got some confidence that it could work. And then it turned into, what's it going to look like when the walls are up? And then Steve and I got there Wednesday night, and we may or may not have stuck on the track at inappropriate times, and to check out the parts of the racetrack that we could see, and it was like, wow, this is going to work. And then on Saturday morning, I got to take pace car out. And after that, I really had a high level of confidence that it was going to work. Now, I knew it was going to be hard, and I knew there were harder parts of the racetrack than others, which every racetrack has. But the confidence kept building. The more information I got, the confidence kept building. And then the drivers did track walks. They communicated with NASCAR. NASCAR changed some of the tire barriers based on the track walks. They gave a little more room for some drivers in corner exit. They did some things from a safety standpoint. So there was great coordination and willingness from NASCAR as drivers got there and started looking at things from their perspective. There's willingness from NASCAR to say, okay, that makes sense. Let's do that. So all in all, it was a great success. And Nate, I do think some of the success, how do I say this? Like, the fact that it rained as much as it did, and the entire industry just pulled together and found a way to make it happen under adverse conditions. I mean, there was a moment there no one thought we would be able to race on Sunday, or at least they were very concerned. And NASCAR didn't rush it. They didn't put cars on track when they weren't supposed to. The teams did a phenomenal job of where they had to unload their cars and what they had. They did a phenomenal job in recognizing all that. It was a joint effort by everybody. I thought the communication to the teams and the drivers prior to going to the racetrack, I thought was phenomenal. So everybody understood what was going on. And I think all of that was paramount to its success. It was radically different. And the teams had to do everything different. The drivers had to do everything different. We at NBC had to do everything different. NASCAR, everybody did. And all the work that went into it. And there was a ton of work that went into it. And that communication was really important. And I think that is part of the new NASCAR, that communicating is exceptionally important. And let's over communicate. Let's don't under communicate. And I thought that had a lot to do with the success.
Yeah, a ton of effort, ton of time, everybody pulling the rope in the same direction, and a ton of money as well. I mean, $50 million is the estimate on what NASCAR spent. And what struck me, Jeff, is I had just come from covering the Detroit Grand Prix for IndyCar a few weeks earlier. And when I walked around Chicago on Thursday and Friday, it looked like Detroit. It looked like Long Beach. It looked like St. Pete. It looked like a street course. It looked like every other street course I've covered in the IndyCar series. So now I think the question becomes, obviously, NASCAR's got a 3-year contract in Chicago, so 2 years left. There is a possibility that the city can review this and exit. Certainly hope that's not the case. I hope that NASCAR is back in Chicago next year. But if that weren't the case, should NASCAR be at a street circuit at least once every season for the foreseeable future, Chicago or otherwise?
That's a good question. I do believe there's an opportunity in many parts of the country, not just Chicago. I can't imagine Chicago reviewing it and saying that wasn't good for us. I can't imagine that happening. So where does that fit, right? So where does street racing fit in our schedule? And I will say it like this, Nate. I think the great thing about the new NASCAR is we don't have to know where it fits 2 years from now. Like now, don't get me wrong, they have to be working on it, but because these things certainly don't happen overnight with all the logistics and everything that have to happen. But you don't have to be committed to it or against it. You have to have a willing city for sure. But if for whatever reason the fans love it and it's very productive, find ways to do it. If for whatever reason the fans don't love it and it's not as productive as it needs to be, then don't do it. And that flexibility that we have today that we didn't have before gives us great advantages. And one of those advantages, I think we should go back to Chicago next year for sure. I think that I just don't know why we wouldn't. I thought the city greeted us well. The fans greeted us well. And by the way, we have unfinished business, to be honest with you. Like, they didn't see the best of us. Like they got a version of us. I want them to see the best version of us. I want the whole weekend to happen. I want the concerts that got canceled due to weather. I want those to happen. I want a weekend in Chicago that is uninterrupted with the weather and all the chaos that was created because of the record-setting rain. So I think we still have unfinished business there. And if we can go there and have a clean weekend, it would have been even better. So I want those race fans to see that, because I think we have an opportunity to take it to the next level just by not having to deal with all that stuff.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.